grew up the first 9 years of my life in San Diego, California, sort of typical, suburban life there. And then my dad had probably the definition of a midlife crisis and joined the State Department. And so I was uprooted at the age of 9 to Dominican Republic, which I told my parents, every year for 2 years that I hated my life. And then, from there on out, every 2 years moved to a different country. So Dominican Republic to Argentina to Kenya to Ecuador. That experience of living in so many different countries and being exposed to so many different cultures is something that I still think about all the time. And I think being exposed as well to the social injustices that I saw on a daily basis everywhere that I was. 2001 December, Kenya was having its first democratic elections. And because my dad was in the foreign service, we got to serve as official observers. So at the time I wasn't very happy about it, but we went out in the middle of nowhere, the day after Christmas to this extremely rural village. Got up at 5 in the morning and went to a polling place. And, it was literally like a shack. And there were people, hundreds of people, long lines outside waiting to vote. They were just so excited to be able to use their voice to make a difference because they've never happened in their history. I mean, that was just such a powerful experience for me to see, this is how much these people valued the democratic process. Something we take for granted a little here. Why don't we try to do that at a very local level at our schools? And so it's the same drive of getting people involved in the democratic process, which I think is completely empowering. Our mission is to empower historically underrepresented youth to be active participants in the democratic process. And so we do this because we think there's a civic engagement gap in this country, in which lower income people and minority people don't participate in the process as much as their counterparts and don't get as much political representation. And this starts with our young people. And the solution also starts in our schools. So we fulfill our mission by implementing what we call an action civics curriculum, where young people learn about the democratic process through picking an issue and taking action on that issue. You learn about science through doing science, you learn about math through doing math problems. Historically, you learn about civics through a teacher telling you these are the 3 branches of government, here's how a bill becomes a law. Generation Citizen is about learning civics by doing civics. Our students choose issues ranging from gang violence to teen jobs to public transit, and they take effective action, meeting with legislators, writing opinion articles, producing small documentaries to really get exposed in the process. And then the other innovative part of it is that we bring trained and motivated college students in to partner with the teachers to help implement the curriculum. So to bring sort of a peer-to-near-peer mentorship component into it as well. Our biggest strength and our biggest challenge is that we actually work in the schools. And so, you have other organizations that are in the after-school space. And in a sense, that's easier because you don't have to deal with the bureaucracy that is schools, and you can do what you want. The problem I have with that is that if you do that, you're appealing to kids that are already interested in getting involved in the process. And we want to appeal to everyone. So essentially what we're doing, just in terms of what you were saying, is trying to work within the system to create change, and trying to disrupt the system from, working with people, being pragmatic about it, and working with schools to figure out how this fits in with what they're already doing. It's pretty challenging doing it that way. We have schools that, love us and are on board with us, and we have administrators that, think that we're something that's not worthwhile at all. And I think there's a number of things we're doing on that capacity. One is formal evaluation. So getting our students to do pre- and post-test surveys on how much they know about the political process, their ability to participate, their desire to participate. And there's strong positive correlations in all of that right now, that they're becoming more civic engaged as a result of our program. We just produced this 5-year growth plan. And so, we're thinking about it, and I think, that calls for us to be working with 20,000 students in 5 cities in the next 5 years. But yeah, from a sort of, I think it's when, we have this whole education reform debate in this country right now, and it doesn't include civics. Civics is sort of seen as an extra subject. Like, if we have time, it would be nice if we do this. And if you look at our political debate and you look at our participation numbers, A, I would argue that it's completely necessary, and B, I would argue that it's extremely empowering when done well. and there's nothing more empowering when done well. So I think success for us happens in, not going to be anytime in the near future, but when districts and schools and everybody from the Secretary of Education on down sees civics education and effective civics education as something they can pay more than lip service to, but something that's really integral to the success of the students. A story of how not to do it, actually, just because I feel like that might be helpful. So, I mean, early on when I first started, I'm definitely someone that, again, doesn't really like the concept of slow-moving bureaucracies. Now I respect it. Before, I didn't really respect it, and so just an anecdotal story is that we're working with a Providence school district, and we have these big civics days at the end of every semester where we get all our kids together, and at that one we had the governor coming and the treasurer and all these people in Rhode Island, and apparently we didn't follow the exact field trip protocol that the city of Rhode Island wanted, or the district wanted. I could have cared less about it. And I said, we can organize buses. It's not going to be a problem. We have all these people coming. And the district got really pissed because, they had this protocol and they couldn't care less what the substance was going to be. They had a protocol. And so, I think, and then I just sort of went through it. And it was not a good, basically they blacklisted me from the district. We made the field trip work. So that's my mentality. It's also it's always, let's do what we can to make it work. And bureaucracy, sometimes it's, let's do what we can to work within the system. I think that shows that you can't just run through things, which is what I thought at the beginning, is that, my agenda is what matters and everybody else's will go around mine. I think what we've done is just really tried to identify what, in our specific instance, what the districts want and what our value added is, and come at it from a perspective of, look, our curriculum's aligned to standards, so I'm being specific here, but our curriculum's aligned to standards, you need to be doing these standards, here's an innovative way in which you can meet what you're already trying to do. And hopefully, through, I very much believe in a bottom-up and top-down approach. I think you have to have both at the same time. So if we just had teachers that were interested in our program and we weren't working with administrators, we wouldn't be successful. If we just had administrators and no teachers, we wouldn't be successful. So we're working on both at the same time. I think that's another important lesson. But I think it's also important to know for us that it's gradual. That we're not going into districts and assuming that on day one they're all of a sudden going to realize the importance of our curriculum and transform their thinking. But that through time, through piloting in a few classrooms and working with them and identifying their priorities, that we can be successful through that end. I think it goes back to what I saw in Kenya, honestly. And then what I talk about is individuals coming together to make a collective difference. And that's, I think that for me is at the crux of what I do and hopefully what I will always do, and the crux of this country too, is that we're a country that values our individual freedoms, which I think is great, but also values those individuals coming together to make a collective change. And I think it's actually sometimes easy to lose sight of that. And think that if all of us are in our bubbles doing our own individual thing, then it'll all work out in the end. So I guess it's just people thinking about that, right? It's people thinking about what it means to come together to make that collective difference. So that's one thing. And the second thing, it is sort of that concept of being able to work within systems to create dramatic change. I think you need dramatic change, but I also think you can't completely revolutionize systems right now from a theoretical standpoint. I know people would disagree on that, but that's sort of how I think about it.